Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The winds are roaring, the rain is crashing down on you, the thunder is deafening. Most people would panic, run for cover, or collapse under the sheer force of nature. But you stand there calm, unshaken, your gaze steady, your mind unbreakable. What if I told you that this kind of inner strength, this unshakable mental resilience, is not just a fantasy? What if I told you that the greatest warriors, philosophers, and emperors of history used a set of brutal but powerful laws to master their emotions, conquer fear, and rise above the chaos of life? And what if you could learn these laws today and rewire your mind to become mentally unbreakable? If you are still watching the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and write a comment telling us which country you're watching from. And at the end of the video, you will find a special additional tip, so make sure to watch until the very end. The philosophy of Stoicism is not a set of soft motivational quotes. It is not about pretending that everything is fine. It is about staring life in the face, no matter how ugly or painful, and choosing to remain stronger than whatever is thrown at you. It is brutal because it does not flatter you. It does not tell you that the world will bend to your desires. Instead, it tells you to bend yourself, to master yourself, because the world will never stop being ruthless. And in that ruthlessness, you discover freedom, power, and resilience. The first brutal law is that life owes you nothing. From the moment you are born, you are not promised happiness, wealth, or fairness. The universe does not care about your plans or your comfort. This may sound harsh, but once you accept this truth, a weight falls off your shoulders. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Why not me?" The Stoics believed that the events of life are indifferent, neither good nor bad, until your mind labels them. Imagine being fired from your job. One person sees it as the end of their world, another sees it as an opportunity to start anew. The fact itself, losing the job, is neutral. It is your interpretation that gives it power. When you internalize this law, you stop asking for life to be fair and start taking ownership of your reactions. That is where true strength begins. The second brutal law is that you control almost nothing. Think about it. You cannot control the weather, the economy, what people say about you, or even whether tomorrow will come. The only thing you truly control is your mind, your thoughts, your choices, your perspective. Epictetus, once a slave, understood this better than anyone. They could chain his body, but not his will. They could insult him, beat him, but they could not touch his inner freedom. This is the essence of Stoicism. Focus only on what is within your control and let go of everything else. The energy we waste worrying about the uncontrollable is the very energy that could transform our lives. Every time you feel anxiety rising inside you, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, release it. If the answer is yes, act on it. This simple shift in rewiring your brain to stop being a prisoner of worry and become a master of action. The third brutal law is that suffering is a choice. Pain is inevitable, yes. You will experience loss, disappointment, and heartbreak. But suffering, the mental torture we inflict on ourselves, comes from our resistance to reality. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders, wrote in his private notes that if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Think about it. You lose a friend and grief consumes you. But is it the loss itself, or is it the endless thought, "This should not have happened"? The Stoics remind us that reality is indifferent. It is our refusal to accept it that multiplies pain. By embracing reality as it is, no matter how cruel, you strip suffering of its power. This does not mean you become cold or unfeeling. It means you refuse to let pain break you. You feel it, you acknowledge it, but you remain standing, unshaken.
The fourth brutal law is that you will die. Every day you are closer to your final breath. To many, this thought is terrifying, but to the Stoics, it was liberating. They practiced what is called memento mori, remembering death. This was not morbid obsession, but a tool to sharpen their minds. Knowing that you will die forces you to stop wasting time on trivial arguments, shallow desires, and meaningless pursuits. Death equalizes us all. It strips kings and beggars alike. When you remember this, your priorities shift. You stop asking, "What will people think of me?" and start asking, "What will matter on my deathbed?" This brutal law destroys illusions but creates clarity. It frees you from the fear of loss because you realize everything is temporary, including you. But Stoicism is not just about grim acceptance. It is also about power. The power to remain calm in chaos. The power to turn adversity into advantage. The power to build a mind so strong that nothing can break it. And that brings us to the fifth brutal law, which is that obstacles are not in your way, they are the way. Imagine a massive stone blocking your path. Most people would curse it, cry about it, or give up. The Stoics would say, "Good, now we train." Every obstacle, every challenge is a test. It is life asking you, how strong are you really? When Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, wars, and betrayals, he did not collapse. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacle is not your enemy, it is your teacher. Each problem you face is an opportunity to sharpen your mind, strengthen your will, and prove your resilience. When you shift your perspective in this way, nothing can truly defeat you. The sixth brutal law is that your emotions are liars. Anger tells you that revenge will heal you. Fear tells you that running away will save you. Desire tells you that once you get that thing, you will finally be complete. But the Stoics warn us, emotions are like storms. They come fast, they are loud, but they pass. If you act in the middle of the storm, you will regret it. How many lives have been destroyed because someone acted out of rage in a single moment? How many dreams have been abandoned because of fear? The Stoics trained themselves to pause, to observe, to let the storm pass before making a decision. This does not mean suppressing emotions, it means mastering them. You are not a slave to your feelings. You are the commander of your mind. When you recognize emotions as temporary illusions, you free yourself from their chains. The seventh brutal law is that comfort is a drug and it will weaken you. The modern world is obsessed with convenience. We avoid discomfort at all costs, but the Stoics deliberately sought it. They would sleep on the floor, walk in the cold, eat plain food, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they knew strength is built in discomfort. Seneca wrote that we should practice poverty so that when hardship arrives, it does not break us. The more you expose yourself to discomfort, the less power it has over you. Cold showers, fasting, physical training, difficult conversations, all of these are exercises in resilience. If you want to be mentally unbreakable, you must stop running from discomfort and start using it as your training ground.
These are the 8 brutal Stoic laws. At first, they may sound harsh, even ruthless, but within their harshness lies liberation. When you accept that life owes you nothing, you stop complaining. When you realize you control only your mind, you stop wasting energy. When you understand that suffering is a choice, you stop torturing yourself. When you remember death, you stop wasting time. When you see obstacles as the way, you turn problems into opportunities. When you master your emotions, you free yourself from chaos. When you embrace discomfort, you grow unbreakable. And when you guard your time, you take control of your destiny. Imagine living with this mindset. Imagine waking up every day unafraid of what may come, knowing that no matter what happens, you will remain standing. That is what it means to be stoic. That is what it means to be mentally unbreakable.
Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself walking through a busy street. Cars are honking, people are shouting, the city is alive with noise. Suddenly, someone bumps into you and spills hot coffee all over your shirt. You feel the heat, the sting, and before you even think, your emotions rise like a wildfire. Anger screams inside your mind. How dare they? You want to shout, to lash out, to blame. But pause for a second. What if you could stop that fire before it consumes you? What if instead of exploding, you simply breathe, smile, and walk on, untouched? This is not weakness. This is power. This is what the Stoics trained for every day of their lives, the ability to remain unshaken in the face of life's chaos. The first brutal law we discussed earlier reminds us that life owes us nothing. Let's expand on that. Imagine a man who works tirelessly for years, expecting recognition, expecting reward. But when the time comes, his efforts are overlooked, someone else is promoted, and he feels betrayed by life. The truth is, life never signed a contract to treat him fairly. This expectation is the root of his misery. The Stoics would say, release the illusion of fairness. The world does not revolve around your desires. When you let go of entitlement, frustration dissolves. You begin to move through life with gratitude for what is, rather than bitterness for what is not. This shift rewires the mind from victimhood to empowerment. You stop asking, why me? And instead declare, why not me? I will endure. I will rise. Now consider the second law, that you control almost nothing except your own mind. Let's illustrate this with the story of Epictetus. He was born a slave, owned by another man, beaten, and even crippled. Yet history remembers him not as a victim, but as a philosopher whose words shaped civilizations. Why? Because he mastered the only thing no one could take from him, his thoughts. Imagine being chained, denied freedom, yet still declaring, you may enslave my body, but you will never enslave my will. This is the kind of mental unbreakability Stoicism teaches. Think about your own life. How often do you waste energy on things you cannot control? The weather, politics, what people think of you? Every time you do, you hand over your peace. But when you focus only on your choices, your actions, your perspective, you step into true power. The third brutal law, that suffering is a choice, may sound cruel at first, but let's explore it deeper. Picture two people who both lose their homes in a fire. One collapses, drowning in despair, replaying the tragedy in their mind over and over. The other mourns the loss, but then says, it is gone. I will rebuild. I will not let this destroy me. The pain is the same, but the suffering is different. Marcus Aurelius, ruling Rome during plagues and invasions, wrote in his journal that the obstacle is not what hurts us, it is our judgment of it. Imagine the weight of an empire, the betrayal of friends, the constant threat of death. And yet he reminded himself, endure, for the universe is not against you. If a man with the entire Roman Empire on his shoulders could refuse to suffer, so can we. The fourth law, that you will die, can be the most terrifying, but also the most freeing. The Stoics practiced meditating on death not to depress themselves, but to sharpen their focus. Seneca wrote, let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life.
Imagine you are told you have only a year left to live. Suddenly, all the small annoyances fade. You stop caring about gossip, about petty arguments, about chasing shallow pleasures. Instead, you begin to value every sunrise, every conversation, every moment. Death is the great clarifier. By remembering that you are mortal, you begin to live with urgency and purpose. You no longer postpone your dreams for someday, because you realize someday may never come.
Now, let's revisit the fifth law, that obstacles are the way. This is one of the most empowering truths Stoicism offers. Consider the story of Thomas Edison. When his entire laboratory burned down, millions of dollars in work destroyed, he didn't weep or curse his fate. Instead, he said, "Thank God all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start fresh." This is pure Stoicism. What others see as tragedy, the Stoic sees as training. Every challenge is an invitation to grow stronger. Imagine facing a setback at work, a betrayal by a friend, or a dream that collapses. Most people see only failure, but the Stoic asks, "What is this teaching me? How can I use this?" This mindset transforms every obstacle into a stepping stone. Nothing is wasted. Every difficulty becomes fuel for greatness. The sixth brutal law, that emotions are liars, comes alive when we look at our own lives. Think of a time you acted out of anger, saying words you later regretted, or a time when fear stopped you from taking an opportunity that could have changed everything. In those moments, emotions ruled you like a tyrant. But emotions, as the Stoics knew, are temporary. They rise and fall like waves. If you anchor yourself in reason, you ride the waves without drowning. Marcus Aurelius wrote that anger is like a temporary madness. Imagine if before every decision you paused, took a breath, and asked, "What is real here, and what is just my emotion talking?" That single pause can save you from years of regret. The Stoics practice this daily, turning observation into power. The seventh law, comfort is a drug, challenges us in our modern world. Today we live in an age of constant convenience, food delivered in minutes, entertainment at our fingertips, climate-controlled homes. Yet this comfort weakens us. The Stoics believed in voluntary discomfort as a form of training. Seneca would wear simple clothes and eat plain food to remind himself that he could endure poverty if it came. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself to wake early, to face cold mornings without complaint. Why? Because comfort breeds weakness, but discomfort breeds strength. If you want to be unbreakable, you must learn to embrace challenges. Try fasting. Try enduring cold. Try stepping outside your comfort zone daily. Each small act of discomfort is like lifting a weight for your mind. Over time, your resilience grows unshakable. The eighth and final law, that time is your most precious possession, demands brutal honesty. How many hours have you wasted scrolling endlessly, gossiping, or procrastinating? Seneca said, "You are living as if destined to live forever. Your own frailty never occurs to you." Imagine your life as a jar of coins. Every day you spend one coin, but you don't know how many are left. Would you still waste them so carelessly? The Stoics remind us that time is life itself. When you waste time, you waste your life. Guard it fiercely. Ask yourself every morning, what will I do today that will truly matter? By living with this awareness, you begin to build a life of depth, not distraction. Now, let's take these laws and imagine living them. Imagine waking up tomorrow with the mindset that life owes you nothing. You are already free from complaint. Imagine focusing only on what you control. Anxiety evaporates. Imagine refusing to suffer from pain, choosing instead to accept reality. You become untouchable. Imagine living each day aware of death. Every moment becomes precious. Imagine turning every obstacle into opportunity. Suddenly, nothing can defeat you. Imagine pausing before acting on emotions. Wisdom becomes your guide. Imagine embracing discomfort. Strength hardens your spirit. Imagine guarding your time. Your life becomes sharp, focused, and meaningful. This is the Stoic life. This is what it means to be mentally unbreakable. But here's the deeper truth. Stoicism is not just philosophy, it is practice. It is not enough to know these laws, you must live them. The Stoics would wake each day with reflections, test themselves in hardship, and end each night with self-examination. They trained their minds like warriors train their bodies, and so must you. Each law is like a weapon. The more you practice, the sharper it becomes. And remember, at the end of this video, you will discover one special additional tip that ties all of these brutal laws together into a single, unstoppable mindset. Do not miss it.
Picture this: a battlefield. Chaos everywhere. Arrows fly through the sky, swords clash, men shout in fear and rage. And in the middle of this storm stands a commander. His men are terrified, some are ready to run, others are frozen in panic. Yet his face remains calm, his eyes steady, his voice firm as he calls his soldiers back into formation. What makes him different from the others? He sees the same danger, hears the same cries, feels the same fear, but he has trained his mind not to break. He has learned that in the face of chaos, the calm man holds the greatest power. That calm is not natural. It is built. And that is what Stoicism teaches you to build. A mind so disciplined that even in the middle of life's fiercest battles, you remain unshaken. Think back to the first brutal law, that life owes you nothing. In modern times, we see entitlement everywhere. People feel the world should hand them success, recognition, or happiness simply because they exist. But life is not a vending machine where you put in effort and always get what you want. Sometimes you give everything and still lose. Sometimes you play by the rules and still get cheated. The Stoics tell us, expect nothing and you will never be disappointed. When you embrace the truth that life owes you nothing, you begin to approach every blessing as a gift, not a guarantee. Gratitude replaces bitterness. Imagine waking up and realizing that even your breath is a gift. Suddenly, instead of saying, "Why didn't I get more?" you begin to say, "How lucky I am to have this at all." That shift transforms not just your mindset, but your entire life. The second law, that you control only your mind, comes into focus when we think about the chaos of today's world. Social media, politics, global crises, everywhere you look, people are consumed by things they cannot control. They scroll endlessly, argue with strangers online, rage about events on the other side of the world. But what does this accomplish? Nothing but stress. The Stoics would say you are throwing your peace into the fire. Instead, bring your attention back to what you can control: your actions, your values, your response. Epictetus said, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself has power over my will." Imagine applying this every day. Your boss insults you? That is their choice. How you respond is yours. The economy crashes? That is beyond you. How you adapt is within you. When you focus on your mind, you become untouchable. The third law, that suffering is a choice, takes on new meaning when you think about the stories of those who endured the unendurable.
Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps, lost his family, his freedom, his entire world. Yet he survived by realizing that even in the worst circumstances, no one could take away his ability to choose his attitude. He refused to let suffering consume him. He found meaning in endurance. He later wrote that those who survived were often the ones who found purpose in their pain. This is Stoicism in its purest form, not denying pain, but refusing to let it destroy your spirit. Imagine facing your own struggles with this mindset. Every setback becomes not a curse, but a challenge. How will I use this to grow stronger? The fourth law, remembering death, may feel uncomfortable, but let's face it, we are all living on borrowed time. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, reminded himself daily that he was just flesh and bone destined to turn to dust. This was not to depress him, but to sharpen his sense of urgency. Imagine if every morning you looked in the mirror and reminded yourself, I may not see tomorrow. Would you still waste hours scrolling? Would you still hold grudges? Or would you finally call that loved one, chase that dream, live fully in the moment? Death is not the enemy. It is the greatest motivator. By remembering it, you wake up to the preciousness of life. The fifth law, that obstacles are the way, becomes real when we look at stories of resilience. Take Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years. He could have let bitterness consume him. He could have broken under the weight of injustice. Instead, he used prison as his training ground. He read, reflected, strengthened his spirit. When he finally walked free, he emerged, not broken, but stronger, ready to lead a nation. His obstacle became his path. This is what the Stoics meant when they said, what stands in the way becomes the way. Imagine if you began to see every challenge in your life not as an enemy, but as a teacher. That failed relationship, that job loss, that betrayal, all of it can harden you, sharpen you, and prepare you for something greater, if you let it.
The sixth law, that emotions are liars, is one of the hardest to live by, but also one of the most powerful. Think of someone who loses their temper in traffic, rages at strangers, and ruins their entire day. What did their anger achieve? Nothing but self-destruction. Now think of someone who remains calm, even when insulted. Their calmness is not weakness, it is control. The Stoics practiced pausing, breathing, questioning their emotions before acting. Imagine applying this in your own life. Someone insults you online. Instead of firing back, you smile, because you know their words do not define you. Fear tells you not to take that leap, not to start that business, not to confess your feelings. But you act anyway, because you know fear is just noise. When you stop obeying your emotions, you become the master of your destiny. The seventh law, that comfort is a drug, is a warning for all of us today. Comfort lulls you into weakness. The Stoics believed in deliberately making life harder for themselves, so that when true hardship arrived, they were ready. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself to rise early, to endure the cold, to eat simply. Seneca would fast to remind himself that poverty was not to be feared. In our world, this might mean taking cold showers, training your body, fasting occasionally, or facing uncomfortable truths instead of hiding from them. Every time you embrace discomfort, you harden your mind. Every time you avoid it, you soften it. Ask yourself, are you training for resilience, or are you letting comfort weaken you? The eighth law, that time is your greatest treasure, is perhaps the most urgent of all. Imagine your life as an hourglass. Each grain of sand is a moment slipping away. You cannot flip it over. You cannot refill it. How many moments have you already wasted on things that do not matter? How many hours lost to worry, to distraction, to meaningless pursuits?
The Stoics teach us to treat time as sacred. Every conversation, every task, every breath is an opportunity. Seneca warned that while wasting our time, death comes nearer. So live now. Guard your time fiercely. Invest it in growth, in love, in purpose. Because once it is gone forever. Now let's put all of these brutal laws together. Imagine a life where you no longer complain because you expect nothing from the world. Imagine a mind so disciplined that you focus only on what you can control. Imagine refusing to let pain turn into suffering. Imagine living every day as if it were your last. Imagine seeing every obstacle as an opportunity. Imagine mastering your emotions instead of being mastered by them. Imagine embracing discomfort until nothing frightens you. Imagine guarding your time so fiercely that every moment has meaning. This is not fantasy. This is the life the Stoics lived, and it is the life you can build. But here's the secret. These laws will challenge you. They are not easy. They are not soft. They are brutal because they demand the death of your old self. The self that complains, that fears, that wastes, that surrenders to comfort. The Stoics were warriors of the mind. To follow their path, you must be willing to step into discomfort, to embrace the truth without flinching, to rise every time you fall. If you do, you will discover a strength you never knew you had.
Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning and every single one of your problems is still there. The bills, the arguments, the uncertainty about the future, the challenges you can't seem to escape, they are all still waiting for you. But something has changed. It's not the world. It's not your problems. It's you. You wake up with a mind that no longer bends under pressure, a heart that no longer crumbles under fear, a spirit that no longer breaks under pain. You wake up unshakable. The world is still ruthless, but you have become stronger than the storm. This is the promise of Stoicism. This is what happens when you live by the 8 brutal laws. Think back to them for a moment. The first law, life owes you nothing. That means you stop expecting the world to hand you happiness and instead create it yourself. The second law, you control only your mind. That means no matter what chaos erupts outside, inside, you remain free. The third law, suffering is a choice. That means you stop adding pain on top of pain and instead accept reality with courage. The fourth law, remember death. That means every moment becomes precious, every action urgent. The fifth law, obstacles are the way. That means you stop running from problems and start using them as tools for growth. The sixth law, emotions are liars. That means you stop being a slave to fear, anger, or desire and start acting with reason. The seventh law, comfort is a drug. That means you train your mind and body through discomfort until nothing can break you. The eighth law, time is your most valuable treasure. That means you stop wasting life and start living with focus and meaning. Now, imagine if you actually lived these every day. Imagine if instead of just hearing them, you embodied them. You would walk through life with the strength of a warrior and the calm of a sage. No insult could destroy you. No loss could shatter you. No storm could drown you. You would be free. But here is where most people fail. They hear these laws, they nod their heads, they feel inspired, and then they do nothing. They return to their distractions, their excuses, their comfort zones. Stoicism is not meant to be admired, it is meant to be lived. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations to impress others, he wrote them as reminders to himself to live better every single day. Epictetus did not speak to entertain, he spoke to free people from their chains. Seneca did not write letters to sound wise, he wrote them to remind us that life is short and every moment counts. So how do you live these laws? you practice every single day. Start small. When something goes wrong, instead of complaining, remind yourself, life owes me nothing. When you feel anxiety, ask, is this within my control? If not, let it go. When you feel pain, remind yourself, I do not need to add suffering to this. When you wake up, whisper to yourself, I may not see tomorrow. When an obstacle appears, say, good, this is my training. When emotions rise, breathe and let them pass before you act. When comfort tempts you, choose discomfort instead. And every night, ask yourself, did I waste today, or did I spend it wisely? These small practices, repeated daily, will rewire your mind into steel.
But here's the special additional tip I promised you. It is the secret that unites all 8 laws into one unstoppable mindset. Ready? Here it is. Live today as if you have already died. What does that mean? Imagine you were gone. Imagine your life has already ended. No more chances, no more tomorrows. But then suddenly, for reasons beyond understanding, you were given one more day. Just one. How would you live it? Would you waste it, scrolling endlessly, arguing pointlessly, chasing things that do not matter? Or would you live with gratitude, with courage, with focus, with love? This is the Stoic secret. To live every day as if it is borrowed time. Because it is. You don't own tomorrow. You don't even own the rest of today. All you truly have is this moment, this breath, this chance. If you live like this, the 8 laws are no longer separate. They become one. You stop complaining because you have no time to waste. You stop fearing because death has already been accepted. You stop hesitating because every second matters. You stop breaking because you know the only thing that matters is how you live right now. Seneca said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Marcus Aurelius said, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Epictetus said, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? These men lived centuries ago, but their voices are as sharp today as they were then, because the truth never grows old. So here is your challenge. Do not just watch this video. Do not just nod and say, that was inspiring. Live it. Choose one of the 8 laws and practice it today. Tomorrow, choose another. Build the discipline step by step until the laws are no longer rules you follow, but the foundation of who you are. And when life tests you, and it will, you will discover that you are not weak, not fragile, not breakable. You are strong. You are calm. You are unshakable. You are stoic. Now, picture that storm again. The winds howling, the rain crashing, the thunder shaking the earth. Everyone around you runs, panics, collapses. But you stand tall, steady, calm. The storm does not break you because you have already mastered the storm within. That is the power of Stoicism. That is the gift of these brutal laws. And that is the life waiting for you